The champagne glass in my hand suddenly felt like it weighed 30 pounds. My mother's voice cut through the restaurant's soft jazz and gentle conversation, each word landing with surgical precision. I wish you were never born. The private dining room at Delmonico's went silent, not the comfortable quiet of people enjoying their meal, but the breathless hush of witnesses to something unthinkable. I felt my pulse hammering in my wrists, my throat behind my eyes. The congratulatory dinner I'd planned for my Stanford MBA graduation crystallized into something else entirely. The moment I stopped being invisible and started being erased. My name is Claire. I'm 28, and I'm a management consultant. This is the story of how I learned that sometimes the only way to be seen is to walk away from people who refuse to look. The 20 guests I'd invited sat frozen, forks suspended midair. Colleagues, professors, my manager. My father cleared his throat once, a warning sound I knew from childhood. Not here, it meant. Not now. But my mother's face held no regret, only the tight-lipped satisfaction of someone who'd finally said what they'd been thinking for years. Across the table, my younger sister Ashley studied her salmon with sudden fascination, her diamond stud earrings catching the candlelight. The earrings I'd paid for when she started her medical residency. I'd known this dinner was a risk, but I'd graduated top of my MBA class, landed a position at one of Seattle's most competitive consulting firms, and for once, just once, I thought maybe they'd celebrate me instead of comparing me to the daughter they actually wanted. The numbers didn't lie, though they never had. Since I was 14, I'd paid for things. Not just my own expenses, everyone's. 3 jobs through high school, 4 through college, a coffee shop paycheck that covered Ashley's SAT prep, a tutoring income that handled mom and dad's utility bills when dad's contracting business hit rough patches. By the time I graduated from UC Davis, I'd funneled over $47,000 into the family account. No one asked me to. No one thanked me either. It was just expected, the way air is expected, invisible until it's gone. Stanford changed something in me. Maybe it was being surrounded by people who asked about my goals like they mattered, or professors who remembered my name without confusing it with Ashley's. I started believing I could build a life where effort meant something, where I wasn't just the financial scaffolding holding up someone else's dream. So I'd booked this dinner. The private room cost $800. The wine, another $300. The deposit I'd put down 2 weeks ago, another $500. I'd invited everyone who'd supported me through the brutal 2-year program. Professor Chen, who'd mentored my capstone project, Mira and James from my study group, my manager David, who'd already promoted me twice in 6 months, and my parents, and Ashley. Your mother didn't mean it that way, my father said now, his voice carefully modulated. He had the face of a man who'd spent decades smoothing over uncomfortable truths. She's just proud of Ashley's work in the ER. You understand? I understood perfectly. I understood that Ashley could bring home a participation ribbon from elementary school, and our mother would frame it. I understood that when I won first place at the regional math competition at 14, Mom didn't look up from folding laundry. I understood that real impact, Mom's favorite phrase, only counted when Ashley was the one making it. Professor Chen, bless him, tried to salvage the moment. Claire carried our entire research team last semester, he said warmly. The analysis she produced on healthcare systems integration was graduate-level work that's already being cited. My mother smiled, the expression thin as paper. That's wonderful. Ashley just saved a 6-year-old's life last week. The mother called the hospital crying with gratitude. The comparison hung in the air like smoke. My manager David shifted uncomfortably. Mira reached for her water glass. Even Ashley looked pained, though she said nothing. She never did when Mom waded into these moments. My sister had learned early that silence was easier than defending me. I felt something crack inside my chest, not loud but final, like ice giving way under pressure. Every memory crystallized into sharp focus. Mom scheduling parent-teacher conferences around Ashley's dance recitals, but never my academic awards ceremonies. Dad teaching Ashley to drive, but telling me he was too busy when I asked. The Christmas when they bought Ashley a car, used, but still, while handing me a gift card to Target because you're so practical, you'll know what to buy. 28 years of being the reliable one, the uncomplaining one, the one who could be counted on to handle things while they poured their attention into Ashley like she was the only plant worth watering. David stood to give a toast, his voice gentle but firm. "I've worked with a lot of talented people in my 15 years at the firm," he said, raising his glass. "But Claire is something special. The dedication, the strategic thinking, the way she can see solutions no one else considers." He turned to my parents. "You must be incredibly proud." My father chuckled. Actually chuckled. "Well, compared to saving lives in an emergency room, I suppose business consulting has its place." The words landed like a slap. Around the table, conversation died. Even Ashley set down her fork, her face going pale. I looked at my mother, waiting for her to correct him, to soften it, to do anything that resembled defending her older daughter. Instead, she leaned back in her chair, wine glass dangling from her fingers. "You know, Claire," she said, her tone conversational, almost bored. "You've always taken things so seriously. Ashley never makes this kind of fuss." She gestured vaguely at the room, the table, the carefully arranged celebration I'd paid for. "All this drama over a degree. It's exhausting." My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against the tablecloth, feeling the expensive linen cool and smooth under my palms. Around me, my colleagues exchanged glances, some horrified, some pitying. This was the moment I was supposed to apologize, to smooth things over, to be the good daughter who absorbed the blow and kept the family functioning. But I'd spent my entire life absorbing blows. "Excuse me," I said quietly, pushing back my chair. The scraping sound seemed impossibly loud. "I need some air." I didn't wait for a response. I walked out of that private dining room through the main restaurant where other people were having normal celebrations with families who actually loved them, and into the cool Seattle night. Rain was starting to fall, soft and persistent, turning the streetlights into blurred halos. My phone buzzed before I'd made it 2 blocks. Mom. "Come back. You're embarrassing us." Then Dad. "This behavior is unacceptable. Your mother is upset." Then Ashley. "Can you just apologize so we can finish dinner?" I stood on the corner of 4th and Pine, rain soaking through my dress, the one I'd bought specifically for tonight, navy blue and professional, the kind of outfit that said I've made something of myself, and I started laughing, not happy laughter, the kind that bubbles up when you finally understand the punchline of a joke you've been the butt of your entire life. I pulled up my banking app. 3 automatic transfers sat in pending status. $850 for my parents' utilities and car insurance, $1,200 for Ashley's student loans, $920 for the remaining portion of the family mortgage my father had refinanced 2 years ago when his business struggled, transfers I'd set up so reliably that my family never had to ask anymore. They just expected the money to appear like magic, like I was an ATM built into their lives. My finger hovered over the screen. The old Claire, the one who lived to be useful, screamed warnings in my head. But something stronger had taken root, something that had been growing since the moment my mother wished me out of existence. I canceled every transfer, 1, 2, 3. Each confirmation felt like unlocking a chain I'd been dragging behind me for years. Then I turned off my phone and walked the 40-minute route back to my apartment in Bellevue, rain soaking through to my skin. And I didn't feel cold at all. The silence that followed was remarkable. 3 days passed, then a week. No phone calls, no texts, no knock on my door. I went to work, led meetings, closed deals. At night, I sat on my balcony and watched Seattle's lights shimmer through the rain, and I felt something I'd never felt before. Light. Not happy exactly, but unburdened. My colleague Michael noticed first. "You seem different," he said over coffee one morning, 2 weeks after the dinner. "Good different." What changed? I thought about how to answer. I stopped carrying people who never planned to carry me back. I finally said. He nodded slowly. "About damn time, work became my sanctuary. I threw myself into the healthcare systems project with the kind of focus I'd always had but now felt sharper, clearer. David gave me more responsibility. Clients requested me specifically. When a local business magazine reached out about featuring the project's success, I said yes without thinking twice. The article went live on a Thursday morning. My phone exploded with messages. Former classmates, colleagues, even strangers who'd read it and felt something click into place in their own lives. "Thank you for being honest," one email said. "I thought I was the only one whose family treated them like a bank account with feelings attached." I realized I wasn't alone in this particular kind of invisible. There were thousands of us. The functional ones, the reliable ones, the ones our families leaned on until we broke. That evening, my mother finally called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. "Claire." Her voice was tight, controlled. "We need to talk about Ashley." Not "I'm sorry," not "I was wrong," not "can we please fix this," just straight to Ashley. "What about Ashley?" I asked, my voice flat. "Her residency program cut funding. She needs help with tuition and the payments you normally." She paused. "The transfers stopped." I sat down on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, and felt a strange calm settle over me. "Yes, they did." "Well, you need to fix that. Ashley's education is important. She's saving lives, Claire. This is bigger than your feelings getting hurt." My feelings getting hurt. As if being told your mother wished you'd never been born was equivalent to a scraped knee. "No," I said simply. Silence then. "Excuse me?" I said no, I'm not fixing it. "Claire." Her voice sharpened, gaining the edge I knew well, the one that meant she was gearing up for a lecture about responsibility and family obligation. "Don't be childish. Your sister needs you." "She needs money," I corrected. "She doesn't need me. Neither of you ever have." "That's not true." "Mom, you told me you wished I was never born, in front of 20 people. You said it clearly enough that everyone heard. I don't think I'm the one making this complicated." "I was frustrated. You made a scene at that dinner." "I paid for that dinner." The words burst out before I could stop them. "I paid for everything. For years. Ashley's ear surgery when she was 16, I paid for it. The family vacation to Hawaii when I was 22. I worked 3 jobs to cover my share and half of everyone else's. Dad's truck when the transmission died? Me. The deposit on this apartment I'm sitting in right now? Also me. I've been funding this family since I was old enough to have a bank account, and the one time I asked you to show up for me instead of comparing me to Ashley, you told me you wished I didn't exist." More silence. Then my father's voice in the background. "Let me talk to her." The phone shuffled. My father's measured tone came through. "Claire, your mother spoke out of turn, but you're being unreasonable. Family supports each other." "You're right," I said. "Families should support each other. So why have I been the only one doing it?" "We raised you. We fed you, housed you." "You did the bare minimum required by law," I interrupted. "And I've been paying you back with interest ever since. But I'm done. If you need money, get a loan. If Ashley needs tuition help, she can apply for financial aid like millions of other medical students. I'm not your emergency fund anymore." "You're going to regret this," my mother said, taking the phone back. "Someday you'll need family, and we won't be there." The threat was supposed to scare me. Instead, I felt something settle into place, solid and final. "You were never there," I said softly. "That's the point." I hung up. 3 days later, when I came home from work at 7:30, exhausted from a client presentation, I found them waiting in the hallway outside my apartment. They'd gotten my address from Ashley, who still had it from when she'd helped me move in 2 years ago, back when I still thought family meant something. My mother stood with her arms crossed. My father held a folder. Always the folder. Always the documentation of why I owed them something. "We're not leaving until we talk," Mom announced. I unlocked my door and held it open. Not an invitation, a challenge. "Then talk." They came inside. Dad went straight to my couch like he owned it. Mom paced once, twice, her heels clicking on my hardwood floors, the floors I'd paid for when I bought this place. Ashley's in trouble. Dad started, opening the folder. Her program is demanding payment, and if she doesn't pay by next week, they'll suspend her from the residency. She'll lose an entire year. I stood by the kitchen counter, still in my work clothes, and said nothing. We know you're upset, Mom added, her tone suggesting she was being incredibly patient with an unreasonable child. But this is Ashley's future, her career. You can't let your personal feelings jeopardize that. My personal feelings, I repeated slowly. You mean the feelings I developed after you told me you wished I was never born? Mom's jaw tightened. I apologized. No, you didn't. I'm apologizing now. But she said it like someone checking a box, not like someone who meant it. How much does Ashley need? I asked. Dad's face brightened. $42,000 if you could cover it. No. The word hung in the air, simple, clean, final. My father blinked. What? I said no, I'm not giving you money. Claire, Mom's voice rose. This is your sister, your family. You keep saying that word, I said quietly. Family, like it means something to you. But family doesn't work one way. Family doesn't take and take and take and never give anything back. Family doesn't stand in a restaurant and publicly humiliate someone for wanting to be celebrated. And family sure as hell doesn't show up after weeks of silence just to ask for more money. We raised you, Mom snapped. You fed me and put a roof over my head, I corrected. That's not special. That's literally the law. But I've paid you back for that 1,000 times over. Every utility bill, every car payment, every emergency that somehow only I could solve. I'm done being your solution. Dad stood up, his face reddening. You're being selfish. Good, I said. It's about time. They stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Maybe I had. Maybe this was who I'd always been underneath the people-pleasing, underneath the desperate need for scraps of approval. If you leave now, Mom said slowly, her voice dropping into threat territory, don't expect us to be here when you change your mind. Don't expect us to welcome you back. Something inside me, something that had been holding on with bloody fingernails for 28 years, finally let go. I don't expect anything from you anymore, I said. I never should have. So do me a favor. Live your lives like I was never born. That's what you wanted, right? Consider it done. The words landed like stones in still water, ripples spreading outward until they filled every corner of the room. My mother's mouth opened, closed. My father took a step toward me, then stopped, realizing there was nothing left to leverage, no guilt left to exploit. You'll regret this, Mom whispered. Maybe, I said. But I'll regret it a lot less than I regretted trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it. I walked to the door and held it open. It's time for you to leave. They left, slowly, reluctantly, like they couldn't quite believe I wasn't going to break. But I didn't. I stood there as they walked out, as the door clicked shut, as the sound of their footsteps faded down the hallway. That was the last time I saw either of my parents. They never called again, never showed up, never tried to apologize or reconcile. The estrangement became permanent by their choice as much as mine. After I locked the door behind them, I walked to my balcony and looked out at Seattle glittering in the dark. For the first time in my life, I felt free. The months that followed weren't easy, but they were mine. Work exploded. The healthcare project closed ahead of schedule with results that exceeded every projection. David called me into his office on a Thursday and offered me a senior consultant position, the youngest person in the firm's history to make the jump. You've changed, he said. I don't know what happened, but you're sharper now, more focused. I smiled. I stopped splitting myself in half trying to be two different people. The article about the project went viral, my inbox filled with messages from strangers, people who'd grown up invisible like me, people who'd spent years funding families that never funded them back. Thank you, they wrote. Thank you for saying what I couldn't. I started responding, started building connections with people who understood, started realizing that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who sees you, who celebrates your wins without needing to diminish them. Michael and I got coffee every Sunday. My study group from Stanford planned a reunion. Professor Chen invited me to co-author a paper. I built a life filled with people who wanted me in it. Not because I was useful, but because they actually liked me. Ashley called once, 6 months after I cut contact. Her voice was small. "Claire, it's me." I almost hung up. Then curiosity got the better of me. "What do you want, Ashley?" She paused. "I wanted to say I'm sorry for not defending you, for letting them treat you like that for so long." The apology sat between us, and I turned it over in my mind, examining it from all angles. Part of me wanted to forgive her immediately, to rebuild some version of a sister relationship, but another part, the part that had learned to protect herself, stayed cautious. "Thank you for saying that," I said finally. "But I need you to know, I'm not coming back. Not to them, maybe not to you either. Not unless things are genuinely different." "I know," she whispered. "I just wanted you to know I see it now, what they did, what I let them do." She paused, then added quietly, "I found a way to cover the tuition. I took out loans and picked up extra shifts. I made it work without their help or yours." "Good," I said, and meant it. "I'm glad you figured it out." We hung up. I didn't know if Ashley and I would ever have a real relationship. Maybe someday, maybe never. But for the first time, that uncertainty didn't hurt. We've exchanged a few texts since then, birthday wishes, holiday greetings, but we haven't rebuilt anything substantial. The relationship remains cordial, but distant, and I've made peace with that. I stood on my balcony that night, Seattle spread out below me like a promise. The rain had stopped. The city lights reflected off the bay in scattered gold. I thought about the girl who'd spent her whole life trying to earn love from people who'd already decided she wasn't worth it. She was gone now. In her place stood someone who knew her worth, who didn't apologize for taking up space, who understood that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply refuse to shrink. I wasn't the daughter they wanted, but I became the woman I needed to be. And that finally, impossibly beautifully, was enough. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever been the one who gives and gives while everyone else takes, know this: you're not alone. Your worth isn't measured by how useful you are. You deserve to be celebrated, not just tolerated. Share your story in the comments if you're comfortable. Sometimes knowing you're not alone is the first step toward finding your way out. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.